All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for everyone who's here joining us tonight. My name is Lisa Partida with Home Again LA, and tonight we have Tom Fuentes with Bank of California, and we're going to be going over a couple of slides regarding your savings. So, whenever you're ready, Tom.
Thanks, Lisa. Let me, whoops, let
Yeah,
me get our presentation up here.
there you
Yeah,
go.
so tonight we're talking about your savings. Um, this is three or four sections. So the first section is going to be what is savings. We're going to discuss what it means to save, the reason saving money is important, and ways to find money to save. And then by the end of the section, we'll have a little bit more understanding. So setting aside some money every time you get income, regularly saving money, even if it's a small amount, can make a big difference over time. And you'll see this because in one of the sections, we're going to talk about compounding interest, which we'll talk about something on the side that I read a few weeks ago that I found interesting in relation to the compounding interest. Um, yeah, so defining savings. So what does it mean to save? Saving means setting aside a portion of any income that you receive. This can be in the form of your paycheck. It can be in the form of gifts. It can be in the form of like tax refunds, which is kind of topical right now because we're right in the middle of tax season. And if you end up getting money back on your tax return, you can consider that a form of income as well. That can go right into your savings. So it doesn't have to be a large portion either. Regularly saving even like a small amount can add up and compound over time. Um, is spending less money the same as saving money? Spending less money is the same as saving money. Um, but remember, savings is setting aside some money today for use in the future. So, for example, if you buy a coat marked down from 60 to 40, it may seem like you saved $20, but it's not like you're building savings that way, right? So, I mean, you can think of it one of two ways. You're practically and tangibly saving money from income when you physically put that money in your savings account. But if you end up being like a bargain based shopper like I am, where you refuse to pay retail prices for anything, I do myself see how I can save money by using that code example. I'm more willing to try to find something that's cheaper at a store that's maybe $20 cheaper. I mean, that's an effective way to kind of save money, but that's not really saving money that can be compounded over in the future. Think of that more as like temporary short-term savings, if you will, because you're not using that as a means to compound that money over time, right? So why save money? Um, so saving money are completely tied to the type of goals that you have set for yourself. Those goals can be in the immediate, short, intermediate, and long-term goals on whether or not or what goals you have set for yourself. You can think of like that kind of short-term goal and using the coat example, finding something that you want that may be $60 that you found marked down for $30. But then you may have like um, a shorter term goal in the sense of like maybe 6 months where you want to pay off a credit card debt, and then you have those long term goals, which we could say like saving for retirement, saving to buy a house, saving to buy a car. Saving money is important because we want to use it to facilitate the means of building our wealth. You can build wealth in several different ways. You can build wealth by putting money simply into a savings account that has interest that'll compound over time. Another reason to save money is going to be to build wealth over the long time in the forms of like a 401k or a Roth IRA retirement account. Other ways of building wealth could be in investment in alternative assets. Maybe you want to buy real estate. Um, you also want to save money for the purposes of building an emergency fund. Depending on some financial experts, they'll want you to save money over the course that you have saved up for maybe like 3 months of your expenses or 3 months of your stressed out because you have money for the save for those emergencies, and also a peace of mind that can allow you to be a little bit stress free by knowing that maybe you paid your house off early, or maybe that you paid off all of your credit card debt, or knowing that you're actively chipping away at those student loans that you owe. Saving money is important, and a way that we can do this is by getting and keeping a job over time. Another way of saving money in the terms of getting and keeping a job is also taking advantage of those cost of living increases that you may get on an annual basis. And another way through your employment would also be whether or not there's incentives that are offered through your employer, like medical benefits that you receive through vision, dental, or medical insurance, whether or not you have a bonus program and you get an annual bonus at the end of the year, and maybe profit sharing or things like that, depending on the level that you reach within your employment. And not to mention the fact that you may be eligible for a promotion. So really quick section, setting aside money is very important every time you get income. Income can come from several different sources, from gifts from your employer, from things as tax returns. And as you'll see as we get into the other section on how it doesn't even matter if it's a small amount of money, that amount of money can compound over time. So where do you physically need to build your savings? So consider the advantages and disadvantages of the different savings options that are made available to you, and those options for choosing where you actually want to start building your savings. There's several different kind of options for you that you can put your money into. For each saving options, there's going to be advantages and disadvantages, of course. So let's talk about some of those things. Let's talk about the advantages of a home. Advantages can be no fees, no rules, no additional costs to maintain, convenient, easy to access. Disadvantages can be lost, can be stolen, can be destroyed. Sorry, let me back up. Can be destroyed, fire, flood, or a disaster, and easy to access. So using like your house, or like when I was younger, I used to have a jar that I used to keep in my closet where I would put loose bills and change. That's kind of cool. It wasn't like all my money. I had my money in a savings account, if I had money at all when I was that age. But there was certainly no fees associated, no ties to it. There was no rules about when I could access that money in the jar. There was no cost to maintain it. I maintained it. Super convenient, easy to access. But at any point, someone could break into the house, steal the jar, right? You could have someone over to your house that you don't know very well, like a friend of a friend, who could take that money. You never know, there could be an accident that occurs where you end up having the unfortunate circumstances of maybe there was a fire. So yeah, definitely don't recommend. Friends or family, right? No fees, no additional cost to maintain, may be convenient, may keep you from spending the money so you can build on savings. But disadvantages: money can be lost, it can be destroyed again, it may cause strain on a relationship if something happens to the money. So, it's really not wise. It's kind of like that old adage of don't mix family and business, right? So, there's definitely alternatives. And of course, whenever we bring in money and family, strain on relationships can happen because of unforeseen circumstances, right? Hey, so we were already talked about it being tax time, right? One of the things that the tax return organizations like H&R Block do, or Liberty Tax do now, is they have things like putting your tax return on a prepaid card. So This is obviously money that's super easy to get because they put it electronically on a card that you can use. Super convenient because it's all on the card. You might be able to directly deposit um, money in the sense that maybe your employer has some way of giving you a card to put wages on, where funds that are used can be automatically deducted from your card. But with prepaid cards, you have the disadvantage of high fees, maybe. Your card can be lost. Not only can your card be lost, but because this is an electronic implement, that it could be hacked and people could steal money that way too. You might not have the benefit of FDIC insurance, which we'll talk about really, really soon. It might not be possible to easily move money to savings, and the card may be associated to an expiration date that will require you to get an updated card every time it expires. Rotating savings, advantages, commitment to group to save on a schedule, can't easily access money, get a lump sum of money at a known date. Disadvantages, theft or loss due to group mismanagement. Depending on where the funds are kept, you might not have FDIC insurance. Group members might make their deposits, uh, might not make their deposits when required, and the group may become too large. We have the option of putting money into a savings account. This is kind of difficult it's not quite too difficult at the moment because interest rates are kind of high, which causes in, savings interest rates to be higher. So savings accounts are deposits that are federally insured by financial institutions up to $250,000 by, if you have money at a bank, it would be the FDIC. If you have money in a credit union, it would be the NCUA. You may be able to take advantage of having money from your paycheck be directly deposited directly into these accounts. You may be able to automatically move money from checking to savings. And this is usually done on a phone app or on your computer through mobile banking. It may earn interest. There's several different companies like the company is escaping my mind at the moment. You can Google search where you can do shopping of different savings accounts from financial institutions to find what financial institution has the highest interest rate at the time. So a lot of the mobile-based savings institutions offer higher interest rates that, like right now, could be in between 4 and 5%. Another advantage of a savings account is the money is easy to access, and it's an established banking institution. Okay, and you're able to maintain and have a good banking relationship if you have a savings account with a financial institution that has local branches that you can go visit. Now, look out for disadvantages too. There's drawbacks on savings accounts. There can be monthly and recurring fees. Recurring fees, like you can only transfer money from a checking to savings account only 6 times a month. If you go over, you may be penalized. It may not always be the best option for saving money for long-term goals because the interest rates can be a little lower. The financial institution may not be available or may not have access to online banking, but that's certainly something that you can do by shopping around. And it may have a limited amount of withdrawals that you can do on a monthly basis. There's other places that you can utilize for the purposes of savings. There's things like money market deposit accounts. These sometimes often are referred to as brokerage accounts. One of which you can set up at an institution like Fidelity. These types of accounts will give you access to buy investment products like owning stocks, mutual funds, or index funds, or may allow you to open up such things as retirement accounts like IRAs or Roth IRAs. There's also certificate of deposits. or CDs. These often have term limits where they're a little bit different than a savings account. More often than not, certificate of deposits have 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month term in which you have to keep the money invested into the product. If you take money out ahead of time, you'll be subject to fees. But CDs, more often than not, pay higher interest rates than regular savings accounts. You also have the option of investing in US savings bonds that can pay different interest rates depending on the bond that you buy. We already kind of touched upon retirement accounts. Retirement accounts from your employer would include something like a 401k, which is completely advantageous for you to take advantage of, especially if your employer offers a match. Sometimes employers offer a match up to a certain percentage of your income. A very popular matching program would be something like 3 to 4%, where if you contribute 4% of your annual income, the employer will match that 4%. You also have IRAs that can be accessible through money market or brokerage accounts like those that are found at Fidelity, for example, where you can contribute money on your annual basis based upon your age. Currently, at the moment, if you are under the age of 50, you can contribute up to $7,000 into an IRA or a Roth IRA. Both have different tax advantages, where an IRA is taxed up front and where a Roth IRA is taxed up front and has no taxable implications on the back end of when you take out distributions, where an IRA has the tax advantages at the end when you retire. Over 50 years of age, the contribution into either an IRA or a Roth IRA is, I don't remember, it's either 7,500 or 8,000. After the age of 50, you can make catch-up contributions that are $500 more than if you were under the age of 50. And then we already kind of touched upon it. Investments such as stocks and mutual funds can be taken advantage of as well. So we kind of talked about it already when we talked about savings accounts. There's a thing called FDIC, Federally Deposit Insured Accounts. And then with savings or at credit unions, it's NCUA or National Credit Union Administration. Both of these entities will federally insure your money at a financial institution up to $250,000 per signer on your account, meaning that because I share an account with my wife, we both have $250 for a combined $500,000 of FDIC insurance on our account. If you want to know more information about either of these organizations, you can visit fdic.gov or ncua.gov for a little bit more information on those institutions. I think this is probably right here the most important thing that we're going to be talking about tonight, which is the importance of knowing what interest and compounding interest is. So another benefit of keeping money in a savings account with a financial institutions is taking advantage of interest and knowing how that money compounds. Not all accounts earn interest, though. Keep in mind, like if you have a checking account, more than likely it doesn't earn interest, but if you have a savings account, it will. So interest is the money financial institutions pay you for keeping money at their institution, and it's expressed in a percentage. So for an example, a lot of financial institutions right now have savings rates expressed in a percentage that are like in between 4 and 5% right now. That's pretty dang good. The interest that you earned is considered income, and you will have to pay income tax on it, though. Compounding is earning interest on interest. So you earn interest on the amount of money that you deposit and leave in your account, plus you earn interest on that interest if you leave money in the account. So it's super important that when you're using your savings account properly, you're keeping the money in there and you're not taking it out. Because if you take it out, then your money is not compounding over time. How often interest compounds, daily, monthly, or annually, makes a difference on how you earn. the more frequent the compounding, the more interest you earn. So that's very important to get disclosure from your financial institution to understand how they do their interest for the account that you're opening. While the effect of compounding isn't large at first, over time and with additional deposits, the effect can be absolutely monumental as you see that build up over time. Let me give you an example. So compare what happens when you keep $1,000 in cash at your house, right? Versus keeping it in a bank account that pays 2% interest. So as you can see here, it's most obvious that if you keep your money in the jar in the closet like I used to, if you start with 1,000, you end with 1,000 because there's no interest being earned, right? But look at what 2% of interest does. If you put that $1,000 into a bank account, after 5 years at 2%, compounding monthly, just for having $1,000 in a financial institution, they're paying you $105.08. That's pretty cool. After 10 years, that money is $1,221.10. And here's the idea. You're not just putting $1,000 in and never putting money into it again. The idea is that you put $1,000 in to start your account, and then you put $100 in like every month. So not only are you compounding interest on interest, you're compounding interest on interest with additional contributions monthly, excuse me. Let's give another quick example on this looking out over the course of 30 years. Okay, so look at the difference on the right-hand column when we talk about $5 a month compounding at 2% interest. After 1 year, it's $60.55. After 5 years, it's $315.24. After 10 years, it's $663.60. And at 30 years, it's $2,463.63. So using that $5 a month example can allow you to see that if you were able, based on your income, of course, able to contribute more than $5 a month, say 50, say 100, say you get a raise at your employer, your employer gives you a raise. Now you can do 500 a month. Then you get a promotion, and now you can save $1,000 a month. You can see as that money grows and compounds over time that you can really take advantage of that money building through interest compounding over time. Let's talk about APY, or annual percentage yield. This reflects the amount of interest on an annual basis. It's different than the interest rate. So the interest rate is expressed in APR. And that's typically the upfront number that you see when you shop around for a savings account. So APY reflects the amount of interest you'll earn on a yearly basis, and it's expressed in a percentage. The APY is not the same as the APR or the interest rate. It includes the effect of compounding. So the more often your money compounds, the higher the APY and the more interest you're going to earn over time. So looking at APY is the best way to compare potential earnings from different accounts. And the APY can help you shop around. So you also have the rule of 72, which is a formula that estimates how long it'll take for money to double in value. So divide 72 by the interest rate. The result is an estimate of the number of years it'll take to double the money. The calculation assumes that interest rate remains the same over time and that you are not making withdrawals or deposits, right? So let's look at this really quick. So an example of 72, if you have $50 in a savings account with the interest rate of 2%, it will take about 36 years to double money to $100. So 72 divided by 2 equals 36. So that's where you get the 36 years for that money to double. The rule of 72 gives you a quick way of estimating how long it may take to achieve a savings goal. There's another way of using the rule. You can use it to estimate the interest rate you have to earn in order to double your money in a certain number of years. So divide 72 by the number of years. This gives you an estimate of the interest rate that it would require. So as we come to a close for section 2, key takeaways: consider the advantages and the different disadvantages of the different types of accounts that you can take advantage of. More often than not, I think the more typical accounts that you're going to run into are going to be savings accounts, certificate of deposits, money market accounts. Utilize Google search. I think the website is MoneyTree that you can go on, type in the type of account that you're looking for, and it'll compare financial institutions and their products against each other to make sure that you're getting the right interest rate that fits your current situation. I think this may be our last section. So this is saving money for unexpected expenses. We're going to explain saving money and why it's important, because you never know when an accident might happen or an unforeseen circumstance might come up. So we'll discuss money for unexpected expenses and how to plan for an emergency savings fund, and setting aside income for times when your income may vary. So an emergency savings fund, super important. It's kind of the foundation for financial health, because we kind of want to build this account first before we enact the goal of building money for the purposes of preserving wealth over a long period of time. If you're able to do the emergency fund first, that's what I would recommend. I would go emergency fund first, identify the expenses that you so one
Se cortó otra vez. Oh, there you go.
sorry about that, we got disconnected. I think for the purposes of the video going smoother, I'll turn my camera off and see if that works a little bit better. But one of the other things I was going to add when we're talking about setting aside money for that emergency fund is that oh, I think we got disconnected again. Did we get disconnected again? Can you hear me?
No, I could hear you just fine. I turned off my camera too, just to,
Okay,
you know.
cool. Awesome. So the other thing about the emergency fund that we kind of touched on briefly in the first section was financial experts are going to have different opinions about how much money they want you to have saved as a percentage of your income. So yeah, as we see here, $500 and $1,000 is a great start. But once you have that as your start thinking about setting aside monthly expenses based on the amount of income that you make. So let me just give you a quick example, because I don't think it's going to be a part of this section. If your monthly income is $3,000 a month, the next goal that you would have after you put $500 to $1,000 into an account is see how long it would take you to save 3 months of your monthly income. So if you make $2,000 a month, I want you to have $6,000 in your savings account. Does that make sense? And then we'll extend that out to 6 months, right? And then we'll extend that out to 12 months. That way, if anything happens unforeseen, like losing your job, for example, you'll have money to draw from that is equivalent to the monthly income that you earn from your employer, right? So like we were saying, life happens, right? Unexpected events can occur. And unfortunately, they require money, right? You find yourself in desperate need of money. in a desperate situation. You may have to replace a blown tire on your car. You may need a new water heater. You may end up having to pay for emergency dental work, which can be super expensive. Um, Emergency savings fund can definitely help, right? So money specifically set aside for these purposes, right? Setting aside money means separating it from where you keep money that you regularly spend. So think about this being completely separate from the checking account that you use for your regular expenses, right? Emergency savings fund goal. If you pay for unexpected expenses with money you've saved, you avoid creating unforeseen debt. So if you have money set aside, it will bar you from, say, dipping into your wallet and using that credit card that has that high interest rate. It takes time and commitment, right? It's a cycle, still worth doing so. I think it's important to understand that you're using the emergency savings fund as a function to not disrupt the regular cycle of your daily life, if that makes sense, without having to incur extra debt, or dipping into money that you use for your regular checking account for your regular expenses, right? Having an emergency savings fund is an important step in making sure that you actually can improve your financial health, because it'll add for that stability in the future so that you can start checking off those goals like we kind of mentioned. Like putting $500 to $1,000 to start for your fund, putting aside a certain amount of months in a savings account that will match your income from your employer. That way you can actually have the stability to work on those long-time financial goals. So another reality of managing money is how your income and expenses can change, right? So whether your income increases or your expenses decrease, even temporarily, you want to consider setting aside money in an emergency account. So this can help you manage times when your income is less than you were expecting. An example of this would be something like, depending upon an annual bonus that you get because you know your company always gives it. Well, what happens if your company, for whatever reason, went through financial hardship and they're unable to pay that bonus? Don't rely on something that you always get because it may not be there for you in the end, right? So an emergency savings fund is super important, and it can be that important building block to get you going. This may be our last section, savings for goals. Creating a plan to save money for the goals that you have. So you have to ask yourself, like, what do you hope for, and what do you want for yourself, and what do you want for your family in the terms of your savings goals. This is something that's not only applicable to savings, it's applicable to anything that we're doing in our lives, really, and that's SMART, which is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, action-oriented, reachable, and time-bound. In this case, when we talk about specific, you need to ask yourself, what is it exactly that I'm trying to accomplish? When we think about that goal, we want it to be measurable. We want to say how much, how many. When we think about that goal, we want it to be action oriented. Ask yourself, what specific actions do I need to take to actually complete this goal? We want it to be reachable. Don't set goals that are completely unrealistic, we'll say, right? Is your goal something that you can actually achieve? And make it be time bound. Ask yourself, when do I want to achieve this goal? Right? So give yourself a deadline. So you're more likely to achieve your goals if you have this as a visual representation. I know I'm a very visual person, right? So when we think about our SMART goals, it's very important to write them down. After you write them down so that you can become more accustomed to seeing them, post them somewhere. If you keep a calendar in your house for family events, post it next to the calendar. You may want to share your goals with with your friends and your family to let them know what you're focused on. Doing this will kind of sharpen your focus and allow you to kind of like more easily achieve those goals. So writing SMART goals can be powerful. They can allow you to actually put that motivation behind, actually doing it for the most part. So many goals involve saving money. The only way that you can achieve them is by having enough. The amount of money you should save for your goals is based on what you are saving for, how much it'll cost, how much of that cost you need to save, meaning um, that you don't already have it, and the deadline you have to set to reach that goal. Um, so let's go to, I believe that this money needed divided by the time to save. So for example, in this example of an emergency savings fund of $1,000 in 2 years. So you take 1,000 divided by 100, 50 weeks times 2 years equals, you have to save $10 a week. So in this formula,
Tom?
sorry about that. We keep getting disconnected. I'm sorry about that.
That's all
I
right.
don't know what's going on with my connection here, but we're just about wrapped up and we're talking about large expenses now. Sorry, I don't know where we got cut off, but yeah, so when we talk about large expenses, like as you can see in the depiction here, large expenses like a refrigerator, um, your refrigerator can go out. This actually happened to me like 7 years ago or 8 years ago. Refrigerator like all of a sudden went out. I had no comprehension at all of how much they cost. And you have to remember, like, large expenses generally require way more money than everyday expenses and can require multiple paychecks to cover. Like fridges are like $2,000. It's absolutely insane. Um, but just remember that large expenses, require way more money than like any normal everyday expense that you would incur. Um, So yeah, sorry about those disconnections. I believe that we're at our end. Let me stop sharing. Maybe that'll help our connection. I'll turn my camera back on. Um, Let me know if there's any questions on savings. I think the biggest takeaway for the whole thing is taking advantage of the compound interest. Um, so the story I wanted to share real quick about the compound interest is something that I was reading this week, and I think I heard a long time ago, but it's the idea of how long it takes to save $100,000
Hmm.
and how much money you need to put into an account at a certain amount of interest or you
Tom? Mm.